And this is the first time that Chris Hemsworth actually got lost in a role. I didn't see Hemsworth whatsoever. That's why I think this is one of his best performances. And I'll get into why afterwards. Hey guys, welcome back to Candid Cinema. I'm Amanda, otherwise known as AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Today I will be reviewing the new Joseph Kosinski film, Spiderhead, which will drop on Netflix tomorrow. Before you watch Spiderhead, you guys know what I'm going to say. Go watch Top Gun Maverick in theaters, and then come watch Spiderhead. So I got to know Joseph Kosinski through Top Gun Maverick, which is a very large-scale blockbuster film. So watching that before watching a smaller-scale film on Netflix like Spiderhead was really interesting to me because we got to see him strut his stuff on the big screen, and then he kind of applies his own style to Spiderhead, and I thought it was a really unique story. Originally, it was a short story posted in The New Yorker, written by George Saunders. It was called Escape from Spiderhead, so they kind of changed the title of it. But the story is really unique. It is a unique story, and I think that's what kept me really invested in this movie. It's not that it doesn't start off in a great way. It's really choppy. The editing's not that strong. It takes a bit to get into the story. And what I thought was really interesting, I read a little bit of the short story, so they really did kind of take it directly from there. They didn't change that much, is that it starts off with the pharmaceutical company. It starts off with Amnesty testing on these inmates who are removed from state penitentiary to undergo these trials at Spiderhead, at this other jail that treats them with kind of like respect and freedom, but they have to undergo these trials. So we see Amnesty, which is Chris Hemsworth. And this is the first time that Chris Hemsworth actually got lost in a role. I didn't see Hemsworth whatsoever. That's why I think this is one of his best performances. And I'll get into why afterwards in regards to how the story unfolds. But Hemsworth was great. And I know what you're saying, but Thor, he's so good. I'm like, yeah, he's good as Thor. But over the years, it's just Chris Hemsworth playing himself as Thor. Like there's nothing to it at this point. He just became the character through him. So he's acting like himself because they kind of like rewrote that. But this is completely different. It's completely different for him. I really liked him in this. And the whole storyline presents how people who have done wrong in their life or have experienced trauma, it poses the question of like, what is the definition of being a bad person? How do we define being bad? Because everyone has their own perspective in that regard. This film does show the process of these inmates in how they look back on their past trauma, how they've been able to overcome certain things, how certain things have stayed with them. And what I liked about this is that as the film went on, you're really struggling with the fact of what you did. It's on your conscience. And you even think about things that you've done in your life that maybe have affected you in a traumatic way, and you don't even realize that it did affect you in that case. And then you start questioning yourselves like, well, am I a bad person? And that's what this film does. It's a good movie where it's entertaining and it's fun. The soundtrack's great. The songs are really awesome. The story is just super interesting. And you have these wonderful actors who are putting on a fantastic show because they have to constantly switch their emotions. So the whole point of this Amnesty trial is that there is a little box that is placed in the middle of everyone's back. And in this little box, there are separate vials that Amnesty controls from his phone. So the vials, whatever's in the vial, is injected into their veins, and they have to act accordingly because it changes their emotion. So we can call it, potions basically that Amnesty is creating. So there's one for like love and sadness and like real intimacy and, paranoia and all of that. So he plays around with these inmates basically. And we get to see different sides of all of these characters, but it's also like the emotional range within seconds. So that's why I thought that all of these actors did a fairly good job with what they were presented. I thought Journey Smollett was fantastic in this. She had a very small role. I feel like she didn't get enough screen time, especially with how heavily they were leaning into her backstory in the third act, because they needed to place some sort of twist in there. But I think that they all gave really strong performances. Hemsworth just went like full, like when you say 0 to 100 real quick, like he just 0 to 100. It was insane. Miles Teller was a bit more reserved in this than I kind of wanted him to be. I liked him. I always like watching Miles Teller on screen. I think he's a pretty solid actor. But in this case, even though he was the lead, he kind of fell into the background, especially with how overpowering Hemsworth was in this. But I found the concept to just be so freaking interesting, because it's also realistic. You do have these doctors who, you know, want to do something right. They want to do the right thing. They start off with the proper intentions, and then it just kind of gets out of hand, because the more money you get, the more you can put into funding something. And then those ideas start to get out of control. And you see that with Amnesty. It started as one small idea because of his own trauma and what he experienced. And he wanted to try to make these vials, these potions, as I'm going to call them, to kind of make it a bit more easier for his own gain, you know? And I think that every good villain, as I've said it on like Movie Files Live, I've said it on different shows, you need to be able to relate to them in a way. And then that's what makes them such a great character. And I think that's why I love Amnesty. I love Chris Hemsworth in this for that reason. So Spiderhead feels like it's all over the place. It does. Within the first act, I'm like, I don't know what's happening here. I'm really confused. But I found it unique that they started with the vials and what the vials do. Like, it was already in the middle of like one of the trials. And that's where Kosinski decided to start the film. And like, I read the short story, and that's where it starts as well. So it kind of works backwards. So the audience can kind of feel disoriented along with the characters. And then you kind of get into the science of it. It's not like there was excess. I felt like everything that was being said about the vials, about, you know, these big corporations and pharmaceutical companies, and then about life in general, I think that they had a good balance with the script and the message that they were trying to put out. And I'm someone who's like, if there's too much either like scientific jargon or political jargon that I don't understand in a movie, then like that's when you've lost me. But Spiderhead was really interesting. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd. It's a good movie. It's a good watch. I just really liked what Kosinski did with it. He has his own like little flair for this movie. And I thought that some choices were really strong. I thought the action choreography was great. The editing is the only thing that felt a bit choppy, and it was disjointed in a way in the first half. Again, like it had to find its footing with the pacing in the second half. But the third act was pretty cool, I have to admit. And if you are a fan of Chris Hemsworth, I think that this is one of his best performances. So definitely check it out just for Hemsy. Again, it drops tomorrow on Netflix. So definitely give it a go. If you guys enjoyed this review, please like and subscribe. You can always follow me over at AMXND Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. I'll catch you guys next time. Keep watching movies.